Okay, I'm going to be reading Chapter 2 from The Secret School. During mid-morning recess, Ida and Tom sat together against the west side of the school building. Tom, eyes closed, tilted his face up toward the sun. Ida pensively braided bits of grass. "Tom," Ida said sadly, "I won't ever get to be a teacher without going to high school." She flung away the grass. "Of course, my folks probably wouldn't have had the money for me to board in town anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter." "Sure it does," Tom said. "Well then, it doesn't matter that it matters," Ida said, snatching up another blade of grass and twisting it tightly around a finger. "You have any idea how much Miss Fletcher earns?" she said after a while. "Nope," Tom said. $40 each month, that's what." "Banana oil!" Tom cried. "How'd you know?" "Start of the year I saw her contract on her desk." "Sneak peek!" "Suppose I was. But if I had all that money, what would you do?" "Teach in a big city. Denver, maybe. Have books, my own car, a new one, travel around the whole world." "Come on, you're no flapper. Nice girls don't do that." "Then I'm not nice," Ida snapped. "And what about your electricity and radio?" "Not likely you'll do much of that, unless you get yourself some high school learning." "I know," Tom agreed. He gazed out at the mountains that ringed Elk Valley. Ida followed his look. At the moment, the surrounding peaks felt like a cage. Tom said, "I suppose I can learn some of what I need from a correspondence course. Saw an ad for one in a copy of Popular Mechanics." "Remember how Miss Fletcher told us weeks ago the exams were hard?" Ida said. "I'd already started studying." "Well then, guess it's time for a girl to have herself some fun." Ida jumped up, hands on hips. "Tom Cole!" she yelled, braids almost flying off her head with fury. "You're such a sponge cake!" She stormed away. "For crying out loud, Ida!" Tom called after her. "I was just kidding." Ida refused to turn about. She marched past the little kids playing on the teeter-totter. Just up and down, she thought, going nowhere. Suppose if I'm not going to graduate, I won't be going anywhere either. Reaching the other side of the schoolyard, Ida pumped up some cold water. As she drank from the tin cup that hung there from a string, Miss Fletcher opened the schoolhouse door. "Ida, please come in," she called. "I'd like to talk to you." Not at all sure what she wanted to talk, Ida went into the schoolhouse and sat down on the front bench. Miss Fletcher took her place behind the desk. For a moment, they sat in silence. "I want you to know how sorry I am," Miss Fletcher finally said. "I know how much you were set on going to high school." "It's not your fault," Ida conceded. "Anyway, maybe your mother will get better soon so you can come back real quick." Miss Fletcher shook her head. "Ida, she's had a stroke. Even if she does recover, more than likely I'll need to stay and help take care of her." Ida averted her eyes. "I suppose it's selfish of me, Miss Fletcher," she said, once again resisting tears. "But I so wanted to go on and be a teacher like you." Miss Fletcher managed a smile. "Ida, how long have I been your teacher?" 5 years. "And you've been my best pupil, even if you put it off a while. You'll make a fine teacher." Ida stared at her hands. "But I can't wait. You see, up at our farm, it's been a good year. My folks said if I passed and if I found a family I could board with in town, I could continue my schooling. They might be able to afford that this year." She looked up. "Miss Fletcher, I love my parents. I just don't want to be a sheep farmer my whole life." "Ida, I wish it could be otherwise." There was a noise. Ida glanced up. Tom was standing by the door. She wondered how much he had heard. Miss Fletcher turned around. "Tom," she said, "please call an end to recess." "Yes, ma'am." He walked out. Ida started to go back to her regular seat. She was halfway there when she paused. "Miss Fletcher, do you think girls don't need a high school education?" "Oh, no, of course I don't believe that. Mr. Jordan was not thinking." "It's what he said." Miss Fletcher sighed. "Ida, do try to be patient." "It's hard being patient," Ida replied, "if there's nothing to be patient for." At the day's end, Ida opened the Ford's door and flung in the empty syrup can. She was about to call Felix to get him to take his place by the pedals when Tom came over. "Tom Cole," Ida said, "I'm still peeved at you." "Why?" "So suggesting I should just have fun instead of being serious about my studies. You sounded like old Toady Jordan." "I was only trying to cheer you up," Tom said. "You didn't." "Hey," he said, pushing his hair out of his eyes. "I know I wasn't supposed to be listening, but I heard what Miss Fletcher said." "And you called me a sneak peek. Said you'd be a good teacher." "Never gonna get the chance," Ida said. "I thought of a way you could." "How?" "You could become our teacher." Ida just stared at him. "Just what is that supposed to mean?" "You're such a gravy know-it-all," Tom said. "You could take over the school when Miss Fletcher leaves. Look, your legs weren't long enough to reach your car pedals, right? So you figured out how to get Felix to work them. So what? You might drive like a half-inchworm, but you're getting to school a lot faster than you used to, aren't you? Same thing here. You just have to find a way. And the way is, you be our teacher." Ida glared at him. "Are you telling me what to do?" Annoyed, she turned away from him. "Felix," she yelled, "come on!" While she held the car door open, her brother squirmed into the cab and onto the floor. Then Ida got in and tied the door shut. Not saying a word, Tom went to the front of the car, ready to crank up the motor as he usually did at the end of school when Ida and Felix went home. A frowning Ida sat behind the steering wheel and set the spark lever on the left side of the steering wheel to the 3rd notch, then fixed the throttle lever on the right side of the wheel on the 5th notch. "Neutral," she said to Felix. Below, Felix pushed the clutch pedal down. "Ready?" he said. "Ready," she called out to Tom, who turned the starter crank and gave the motor a couple of turns. As the motor sputtered into motion, Ida adjusted the spark lever until the engine ran smoothly. "Reverse," she called to Felix, who pushed in the reverse pedal, while she released the handbrake. The car backed up and swung around, stopping when Ida pulled back the brake lever. "Forward clutch," she called. Felix released the reverse clutch pedal, then pushed in the forward one. "Let's go," Ida shouted while shifting the throttle lever. In moments, the old Ford was bumping down the dirt road toward home. "Ida," Felix called up from beneath the dashboard after they'd gone a while. "What?" "Is something wrong? Did Tom say something mean? What are you thinking about?" "Nothing," Ida snapped. But in fact, Tom's idea kept churning in her head. Could I really become the teacher? She thought. That's the end of chapter 2.